Important information to know before you consider installing solar for your home. Rechargeable batteries for common household devices, and how to find a short in your coax using your antenna analyzer, this time on Mailbag Monday. What's happening, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to Ham Radio Tube. My name is Mike. If you have amateur radio-related questions for me, shoot me an email. I would love to hear from you. K8MRD@iCloud.com. We've got three great things to talk about. This first one is a follow-up from a couple weeks ago when we had a viewer ask about RFI with a home solar installation. And we've got from another viewer some really good things to know about this. So let's take a look. So this viewer shares, I had a Solar Edge solar installation put on my house. Remember that name. We're going to come back to it. Before I got my ham license. Subsequently, I discovered that the power optimizers they put on each panel to feed power back to the main inverter are a huge source of RFI, as are how the panels are wired. Due to this system and neighboring solar panels, HF is basically closed to me during the day. Most solar installers don't know about RFI, and FCC certification of the solar components doesn't mean these things don't put out RFI in the ham bands, just not enough to worry in the broadcast bands. For details on how to find this RFI and mitigate it before you put your panels up, Google the following: Brock Fisher April 2016 QST and Solar Power and RFI 681881. I've done tons of experiments, including killing all power to the house during the day and night, played with ferrites, etc., and just can't kill the solar RFI that is being broadcast from every wire in my house. Short of spending thousands of dollars to rewire my solar panels and maybe go with another system entirely, I basically can't hear on HF during the day. Anyway, that's my experience. So I've retired my lovely Yaesu FTDX 3000, looks very impressive, and I have an ICOM 705 I can take in the field when I want to do HF, which given the day job almost never happens, but at least it's now possible. Since I know how much you enjoy a good chuckle, I attached pictures of what HF looks for me during the day and night at home, as shown on my trusty SDR. Hope you find the Brock Fisher article interesting. Thanks, Charles. W1ZPB. P.S. My cats Ivan and Loki send Satan their best wishes. Satan is not in here right now, but I'm sure he replies the sentiment. So what we're looking at here, these pictures on the left are nighttime, and these pictures on the right are day, showing the lack of RFI at night and the lots of RFI in the day when the solar panels are on. So on 160 meters, we can see no RFI. During the day, RFI. 80 meters, we see signals during night. And during the day, look at all this RFI, all those vertical stripes. Here's 40 meters during the night. Here's 40 meters at day. Lots of, just look at the spectrum graph here. Good God. 30 meters, 20 meters. Look at this. Holy, loads of RFI. So I think we get the point here. Lots and lots of RFI being produced from these Solar Edge solar installations. But let's take a look at this Brock Fisher QST article. Now, I'm not going to go too much in depth. I will leave a link to this article in the description because this is a really interesting read. But Tony Brock Fisher K1KP wrote this article because he put solar up in his house. And look at, this guy's got an antenna farm. Good Lord. And he was having all kinds of RFI. And he notes down here, where did it go? My system from Direct Energy would use components manufactured by Solar Edge. So what they're talking about are these optimizers, and these squares, each one of these is an optimizer per solar panel. And from my understanding, these optimizers are used to basically increase the efficiency of each panel or the whole system in general. So like if a panel were shaded, you would still have kind of optimized power even having a shaded panel, which is a good thing. The downside is they produce a lot of RFI. So what this gentleman had to do before they installed it, his company, Direct Energy, was really helpful in making sure while they were installing it, they weren't going to have these RFI issues. So they had to put ferrite chokes. They used, where's the verbiage they used? 5 bifilar, I think I'm saying that right, turn ferrite chokes. So on all the power wires, they put 5 turns on each one of these chokes at every single one of these power optimizers. Lots and lots of chokes on the panels because of these power optimizers that are causing all this noise. He goes on to say somewhere in here that the cost to mitigate RFI in this solar installation was about 10% of the entire installation. So if your installation costs you 50 grand, you're going to spend $5,000 just mitigating the RFI. And here's a better look at the ferrite and the they're using 3x-filer turns of the power wires for the solar panels. So you got to do a whole lot. Really, really interesting article. Here's a picture. These boxes are those power optimizers, it looks like. And you can see the ferrite chokes they have on every single one of them. So what a nightmare to get rid of RFI from solar. But really good information. If you're looking at solar, you're probably going to have RFI. It's not coming from the panels directly, but things that are connected to the panels and or your inverter/charge controller. So there's a whole lot to think of when installing a big system like a house solar versus just throwing a solar panel out on the ground when we go portable. So thank you very much for sending that in. That article was fascinating, and I encourage all of you to read it. And hopefully we can mitigate as much RFI on the solar panels as we can. One thing that article also mentioned, those are FCC Part 15 Class B RFI generators, which means the onus to mitigate that RFI is on the user, not the manufacturer. So something to keep in mind. Thanks so much for writing in and sharing. I appreciate that. Next, we've got a question about one of my favorite topics, batteries, but not the batteries you might be thinking. This viewer writes, "Hi, Load Mike. Thank you for using my proper pronouns. Is that it? Lord, whatever you want to call them. Since you're the battery nerd, I want your opinion on using rechargeable batteries for non-ham use. I have a smart hub set up in the house with a lot of sensors to monitor various things. As you can imagine, they all take batteries, AA, AAA, and some special ones. Do you use rechargeable batteries for your other devices? And if so, what type do you use? It can get costly having to buy a lot of batteries as they die out. Yes, it sure can. And it's very, very wasteful and impactful on our environment. So to answer your question, do you use rechargeable batteries for your other devices? And if so, what type do you use? Boy, do I ever. So much so that I have a bowl that I keep all of my batteries in. These are all rechargeable. So I've got AA's, I've got 9 volts, I've got AAA's. Some of these are lithium, some of these are nickel metal hydride. But I started I'm talking decades ago, because before I became obsessed with ham radio, all I did was music. I played guitar, and I was also a singer in many bands from middle school all through my 20s. And because I use wireless, I started with these Duracell rechargeable, these are nickel metal hydride, and you can get these at the drugstore. I think you get 4 of them with a charger. Back in the day, they were like $20. And at some point, I got smart and actually started dating them. So for example, this one I bought in December of 2020. So I could kind of know the life cycle. Here's one from October 25th of 2020. And these nickel metal hydrides actually last a surprisingly long time. I mean, I've still got these, and some of these are probably, I saw one in here from 2018, and I've been using them way before then. But now that lithium exists, I've kind of started using the lithium batteries for my devices. So like, here's the remote for my Amazon Fire TV that's here in the shack that projects the Geochron. Inside here, this is a company called Pale Blue. Now, I actually met one of the owners of this company a few years back when I had to travel to Denver for some work. I was setting up a booth for a trade show, and I was walking around this trade show, and Pale Blue was there. So I started talking to the guy about batteries and nerding out. Went back to my hotel room that evening and ordered some of these lithium-ion batteries. I emailed him because we exchanged cards and stuff, and I'm like, dude, these batteries are awesome. And he emailed me back asking if I'd be interested in like kind of reviewing their products just as they develop them. So they've sent me a few sets over the course of a couple years. Now they have 9-volt batteries with USB-C, and these AAA batteries with USB-C. I think they have AA batteries. I think these are the first one I bought. These have micro USB, but these all charge with USB. So like, here's a power brick, and I love these that power over USB. You just plug these in. Here's a 9-volt, plug it in, and they're charging. And you can kind of see maybe these lights on the outside of the cells will start flashing green, and they'll stay solid green when they're charged. So like, to be able to charge these batteries with USB, and here you can see there's a red light on this 9-volt indicating that it's charging. So just like, you can charge all these batteries over USB-C. They're all lithium. I've got some other ones from this company called Xtar. They just emailed me one day because of my YouTube channel. They're like, hey, do you want to review these batteries? So I did a review on these. Here's some AA's from them. These are lithium, and I like the lithium because they maintain that voltage throughout the whole kind of capacity of the battery. But I use these for all kinds of things. So, you know, here's the remote for my monitor that I use in the shack here, and these are those Xtar AAA batteries. Here is the transmitter for my wireless guitar system. I've got the Pale Blues in here. I really like the Pale Blues. They're an American company. They're great people. They care about the environment, that kind of thing. So I use the Pale Blues whenever I can. Here is my wireless microphone. This is just a cheapo, but I've got this EBL lithium battery in there, rechargeable. I should actually put a Pale Blue in there. I must have been charging the Pale Blue, so I swapped it out for that. But yeah, I've got a couple of these EBLs. I might have got these before I met Pale Blue. Here's my wah-wah pedal. I use a Dunlop Crybaby wah-wah pedal. There's an EBL in there. I mean, lithium for days. This is the lid for the trash can in my bathroom that's motion censored. So you just put your hand over it, the lid pops up. After a couple seconds, it goes down like that. This has 4, I don't even know where I got these batteries, but these are other lithium batteries. Again, they charge with USB-C. So yeah, I do have regular chemistry batteries in this house, but I barely use them. Pretty much I'll use them when I get a new device, because sometimes they come with batteries, but once the batteries are depleted, I go right to rechargeable. So yeah, I mean, and there are all kinds of mixed brands in here. Like I said, the only ones, I mean, these are all pure Chinesium. The only ones that I would actually recommend and have recommended, these are on my Amazon store, are these Pale Blues. Again, they're a US company. They care about our environment. And just by using these rechargeable batteries, think about every time you use a non-rechargeable battery, this gets thrown out and in the landfill. It's a one-time use. With the rechargeables, hundreds and hundreds of cycles you can use for one of these, so much less waste in our landfills, and that is a great thing. So yeah, Pale Blue, they're awesome, but you know, if you don't want to get Pale Blue, get whatever. If you don't have the USB ones, this is that charger that Xtar sent me, and this will actually charge either lithium or nickel metal hydride. They say to only use one chemistry at once. I actually have mixed chemistries in there and didn't have any problems with charging, but you can get some banks like this and charge them up. Again, that's just USB. So yeah, rechargeable batteries for days at Casa K Murder. So there you go. For literally probably the past 25 years of my life, I have been using almost nothing but rechargeable batteries every single chance I can get, especially when I was in my 20s and playing in bands and playing shows a lot in my wireless guitar transmitters. Even in band practice, man, I would go through batteries like crazy, and having rechargeable batteries saved a lot of money, because when you're in your late teens, early 20s, you're spending money on really bad beer, and you don't want to spend it on batteries. So invest in rechargeable batteries, and they will last you a very, very, very long time. So thanks so much for writing in. And lastly, we have a question about Coax. This viewer writes, I have 25 feet of RG316 cable that is part of my POTA kit. Unfortunately, my cat decided it was a treat and gave it a few chomps. Cats do be chomping on some wires, I do know that. The cable still works, so it looks like she only got through the outer coating. We call that the jacket, but I'm not sure. What's a good way to test the cable to see if the damage impacts performance? I have a Rig Expert Stick Pro, but I can't find the cat bite setting on it. Guys, we just introduced this new segment last week. I can't believe we already have to go to it again, but this week on Let Me Read the Manual For You, we're talking about the Rig Expert Stick Pro. So let's head over and check out the Rig Expert Stick Pro manual. And all we have to do is Google Rig Expert Stick Pro manual, and the first thing that pops up is the Rig Expert Stick Pro user manual. And we can scroll down here and let's see. TDR, time domain reflectometers, are electronic instruments used for locating faults in transmission lines. Let's show more of that. Goes on to say how and what it does and all kinds of science stuff, but the important thing we want to know is this graph right here. It says the vertical axis of the resulting chart displays the reflection coefficient, whatever that symbol is, equals -1 for a short load, 0 for a matched load, or +1 for an open load. So basically we're seeing the reflection coefficient here versus the distance. +1 means open, flat means we have a matched load, and a negative means we have a short. So let's go over there and I'll show you some things. So now that we know what to use and what to look for, let's show how to actually do that. Here I have my Rig Expert Stick Pro connected to a 20-foot length of RG316, and no, it does not matter that it is coiled up. I promise. So the first thing we want to do is long press this play button. That's going to get us to our settings. We want to short press the play button again so we can adjust user settings. We're going to navigate to menu 10 by using the left or right arrows here. And we're going to change the cable velocity, or make sure it's on 0.69. That is the velocity factor for RG316. And we simply use the plus or minus buttons to get it to 0.69. Then we can hit the stop button to get out of there and save that. Next, we're going to hit the stop button again to get to the second page, which is Tools. And at the top right, we can see TDR. That's our time domain reflectometer. So we're going to simply press the plus button, and you can see it's collecting data on the cable right now. And now that it's done collecting data, you can see we have that positive spike. We can hit the plus here to expand that a little bit. And there's that +1 that the manual told us about, indicating that we have an open load. So there's nothing wrong with this cable. But what if we had a short somewhere on the cable? Well, here I have a series of connectors just so I can go from BNC to, this is the short connector from my Nano VNA for the calibration. So I'm just going to simulate a short by plugging all this in here, and we're going to simply press the play button to run that test again. And now we can see we have this negative dip right there at 19.92 feet, which is where that short is. So what this tells us is that we have a short at 19.92 feet, which is right here. But if there were a short somewhere in this cable, you would measure the distance from the connector that's connected to the analyzer, and wherever this dip is, we can use the left and right buttons to move this vertical line. So if the dip was here, if this dip was here at 11.8 feet, we would know that from the end of the cable, 11.8 feet into the coax, that would be where our short is. So you would know, okay, now I have a short in this cable. So at 11.8 feet, maybe a little before then, you can cut the cable, maybe a little bit after cut it, and then you can make 2 more cables for patch leads or something. But that's how you're going to use the time domain reflectometer to find a short in your cable. Now I want to show you one other thing, because you did specifically ask about performance. While time domain reflectometer is going to calculate where a short is in a cable, it's not going to tell us anything about the performance of the cable. So from the tools button page that we're on, let's hit this stop button one more time to get to the cable page. And here we can see cable loss. So we're going to hit the right arrow, and it's going to say connect an open circuit load. So I have my open, short, and load from my Nano VNA that I'm going to use. Go ahead and connect the open to all of this. Again, we do have the velocity factor at 0.69. We're going to go ahead and hit the play button. It's going to collect some data. Once that's done, it's going to tell us to connect a short circuit. So we're going to use the short from my Nano VNA and connect that and hit the play button again. And once that's gathered its information, you can see this graph here, and this is going to tell us how much loss in dB we have at a particular frequency. So at 300 megahertz, we have 3.22 dB loss, and we can use the left or right arrows to move this vertical line so we can actually check the performance of our cable. So for example, 20 feet of RG316 at 146 megahertz, we're losing 2.05 dB. Down here towards the HF bands, let's get to say 14 megahertz, we can see we're only losing 0.52 dB. But keep in mind, this is very, very dependent, 100% dependent on the actual length of coax you're using. For example, here's a 50-foot roll of RG316, which, by the way, you can pick up great RG316 coax from my friends at ABR Industries and save 10% off using code K8MRD10. Those are the guys that put the ferrites directly on the coax for you if you want to have an inline choke. So this is a 50-foot run. Let's check the efficiency of 50 feet. So we're at 14 megahertz, we're 0.52 dB loss. And if we run the test again, I've got the open on, let's run it again. We've got an open connected, so we'll hit the play button, that'll collect the data. Now I've got the short connected, hit play again, let that collect its data. And now we see a completely different graph. I mean, it's infinite up here darn near, but we can see at 14 megahertz with this length of cable, now we're losing 1.6 dB at 50 feet versus 0.52 dB at 20 feet. And let's check 146 megahertz. You can see where it gets all the way to the top. We're just losing so much out of this RG316 at these really high frequencies, 5 dB at 146 megahertz. So great for lower frequencies, not so great for higher frequencies in longer runs. But by using that cable loss, that's how you can test the efficiency of your coaxial cable at a specific frequency. So there you have it. I hope that helps explain how to use your Rig Expert in a couple different ways to analyze your coax, if there's faults, how efficient is it, etc., and maybe keep it away from the kitty, because I know my cat Satan, he loves chewing on wires. If there's any wire on the ground, he's gonna find it. So yeah. But anyway, that's all we have for today. Guys, if you have questions for me, shoot me an email, k@mrd@icloud.com. I would love to hear from you. In the meantime, my name is Mike, K8MRD. Thanks so much for watching Ham Radio Tube. We'll see you next time. 73.